What's your problem?
I'm putting $500,000 on Lucky Down to win third race at Riverside.
Can't lay that off in time. Bet like that could break us.
When you're a victim of a really, really good con man, you almost feel guilty for, having been so easily conned. But that's the whole point. They're great con men. We have a whole class of people who are ultra professional con men, and they hold offices throughout the government, surround us.
Get him out! Come, gotta get you out of here. Come on! But my money's in there!
There's a couple of dead guys in there, too. You can't get mixed up in that.
And the revealing of that and the exposing of it, the shutting it down is crucial. How many people in this audience believed the scam and the media to begin with, and it made sense, and now they're almost embarrassed to think that, gosh, I was that dense to even think this was okay. Granted, many in your audience never went along with it, but give room.
Another development on Saturday, New York officials revealed at a news conference here in the city that a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that. No other details were given, but the discovery prompted the FBI and police to expand the search area down in Lower Manhattan.
This is weaponized by military mechanisms against the Constitution, against the will of the people, without lawful authority. These agencies have been hijacked. That's what happened over at Homeland Security. It has to be a military investigation, not just civilian. The military must be involved. After disclosure and the first arrest, people around the world will forever mark that as the beginning of the total change, not just in America, but across the world. And people will remember this moment. Trump was invited to run, and he said it was 200 generals. That actually isn't the full, complete picture. Where did those generals come from? How did they align with each other? Under what circumstances did they come together? There's been a faithful resistance going back to that time period after World War II, where the world started to go off course. There was actually communications between Eisenhower and MacArthur to counter the infiltration to within not just the military, but the American electorate, even Hollywood, by this elitist globalista crowd. And they saw specifically the danger by these extremely wealthy families that continued to aggregate power to themselves. An attack occurred using extremely sophisticated weapons and coordination systems that are out of the U.S. arsenal, the NATO arsenal, but it's really the U.S. arsenal in Ukraine. This attack on Russia's aircraft, they were parked, sitting ducks. This attack on their aircraft took a year of preparation, planning, coordination, training, all of the computer programming to pull this off. That puts it back in the Biden administration, if you will. So you have generals, you have spy masters, people in critical intelligence positions, and they did not let the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, the elected leader of America, know what schemes they had in mind.
Within the past week, unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on that imprisoned island. The purpose of these bases can be none other than to provide a nuclear strike capability against the Western Hemisphere. Upon receiving the first preliminary hard information of this nature,
even after Trump got into office, think in terms of Kennedy with the Bay of Pigs. CIA came in the door last minute. Hey, we've got this operation we're doing. It's going to land a bunch of rebels. They're flying out of a location in Costa Rica that we have a base there. Same base we use for the drug running. Iran-Contra, by the way, between two mountains with the most dangerous snakes in the world, supposedly. Bushmaster snakes. They always travel in pairs. They would actually keep the snakes in cages and then go to put them out on the runway and have guys beating the grass to find the snakes before the planes would land. The guys in the planes, eyeballs wide as could be, saucers. Kennedy was presented with Bay of Pigs as though Eisenhower completely approved the whole thing. It had to be done. They had lots of other operations that relied on getting this operation done. Kennedy allowed it to go on. And they told him that if they ran into trouble, that he may need to have a fuller military response with B-52s to bomb areas to keep Castro from whatever. And Kennedy's like, what? I'm not getting into a war. You're not going to suck me into a war. He was not fully informed what the hell was going on. Sure enough, they get in trouble, and Kennedy, doesn't listen to the generals. And the rest was history. These people were captured and they went to prison for, decades. And that ticked off the military-industrial machine against Kennedy and set the tone for the rest of his presidency.
Ironbark reports that the SS-4 can deliver a 3-megaton nuclear weapon 1,000 miles. Our cities and military installations in the southeast, as far north as Washington, D.C., are in range of these weapons, and in the event of a launch would have only 5 minutes of warning.
5 minutes, gentlemen.
In those 5 minutes, they could kill 80 million Americans. Those missiles make a nuclear exchange more likely. And that is why I'm being such a pain in the ass about destroying them and destroying them immediately. Given your own statements about Cuba, I think a blockade or a bunch of political talk would be considered by a lot of our friends and neutrals as a pretty weak response. I suspect that many of our own citizens might feel the same way. You're in a pretty bad fix, Mr. President.
What did you say?
You're in a pretty bad fix.
So maybe you haven't noticed you're in it with me.
Those goddamn Kennedys are gonna destroy this country if we don't do something about this.
Well, what about these low-level flights?
We need the flights.
They're starting in
An hour.
An hour. You realize what you're letting yourself in
Kenny,
for?
no, we need the flights because the minute that first missile becomes operational, we gotta go in there and destroy them.
Fair enough, but Castro's on alert, and we're flying attack planes over their sites on the deck. There's no way for them to know we're carrying cameras, not bombs.
Damn it.
Going to be shot at, plain and simple. I'm your political advisor. I'm giving you a political analysis here. This is a setup. The Chiefs want to go in. They need to redeem themselves for the Bay of Pigs. They got to go in this time. They got to do it right. They're boxing us in with these rules of engagement. If you agree to them and one of our planes gets knocked down or one of the ships won't stop for inspection, the Chiefs will have us by the balls. They want a war, Jack, and they're arranging things to get one.
So now look at Trump here in this situation. Something was planned long before he took office, starting over, a year ago. And it got down to the critical moments. Sometimes you have to read between the lines, and the obvious statement doesn't give you enough detail. Trump said he was completely unaware of a major attack on Russia. This attack is so bad that it took out, depending on how you want to run the equation, as much as 1/2 of their nuclear deterrent, their triad, air, land, sea, missiles, aircraft, submarines. We have to keep all of our bombers that can carry nuclear weapons in sight so that they can see them, so that if we're preparing to go to war, There is no sneak attack, if you will. Russia has to keep all their bombers in sight also, where we can see them from our satellites and we know they're not getting ready to, go start a nuclear war. Ukraine couldn't have done this all by themselves. They had to have NATO assistance. And a sophisticated kind of NATO assistance was American intelligence agencies, U.S. owned and controlled satellite used in some of the work up here within the NATO system. Absolutely. Could not have happened without Western assistance support all the way back to the U.S. They changed the rules a few years back and said, if they're attacked by a proxy of a nation using the proxy to attack them, but Western support, that Russia then, in their military response doctrine, considers that they are then approved to attack the origins of an attack on them and to bypass the proxy. They're not limited to Ukraine. If Western weapons and coordination, Trump should have been briefed on this. He should have been aware of it. He should have been aware of it by our own NATO partners. Our NATO partners, knowing that there was risk to the U.S., that Russia would see this as a U.S. attack, a U.S. coordinated attack, should have consulted with the president.
Just been informed our nuclear forces are at DEFCON 2.
They were limited. Mr. President, the orders were limited to our strategic forces in the continental United States. General LeMay is correct. Technically, SAC has the statutory authority.
I have the authority. I am the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, and I say when we go to war. The Joint Chiefs have just signaled our intent to escalate to the Soviets. You've signaled an escalation which I had no wish to signal and which I did not approve.
Putin has stated since this happened that it is impossible that Trump wouldn't have known about this, in his opinion. Who in NATO spoke to who? Within the ranks of SES, Senior Executive Service, there was a number of people with their ties into NATO who knew this was coming and did not share that with President Trump. Let's go back to 2020. Most of your audience is very aware there was Executive Order 13848 that said that all future federal elections, within 45 days of any federal election for federal offices, that Homeland Security was to do an investigation before, during, and after to see if there was any foreign interference in the election, any federal election going forward, which of course includes the 2020 presidential election. And that within 45 days of any federal election, the Director of National Intelligence over at Homeland Security, there's 17 agencies at Homeland Security, 16 that gather all the intelligence, and then the 17th, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, coordinates all of that information in one hub. And at that time, it was Mr. Radcliffe who was running, who was the head of Director of National Intelligence. 42 days after the election, 3 days before he was supposed to give his 45-day report, he said publicly in some of the news agencies that he didn't think he was going to be able to provide the report to President Trump and Congress on time concerning foreign interference, because several agency heads were not complying with the executive order and were not providing him, the Director of National Intelligence, with their intelligence reports concerning foreign interference. The Director of the FBI, the Director of the CIA, the Director of Satellite Reconnaissance, CISA, Cybersecurity, these different agency heads, they're not president. They're not even head of Homeland Security. They're just a appointed officer in a position that Congress had to agree to allow to be in that position. They decided themselves unilaterally with their own authority, we're not providing our report to Trump. And what was the basis? Because in their opinion, Trump was in office because of collusion with Russia. We had a lot of intel that showed that that was all complete fabricated bullshit. But you had directors of federal investigative agencies over at Homeland Security, which was created after a made-up event itself after 9/11. You talk about Patriot Act, et cetera, and combining all the agencies at one location. And they defied an executive order. They were insubordinate. They led an insurrection against the President of the United States and didn't provide their investigative product. They should have not voted until they had that information, whether or not there was foreign interference and what that foreign interference constituted, and whether or not it, in fact, had cooked the election in 2020. Congress certified the vote without the benefit of any intelligence from the greatest intelligence gathering machine in the history of the world over at Homeland Security. Why is that relevant to today and what just happened? Because Homeland Security and those agency heads survived into the Biden administration. They conducted a coup against the American people, allowed an election to proceed knowing there was foreign interference, which we'll hear lots more about here shortly. Knowing there was foreign interference that did have the potential and probably the likelihood of flipping the election, exactly what everybody knew, and the reason all those people showed up on January 6th, and the coup was on. That coup lasted through the Biden administration, and what you just saw with what just happened in Russia, people within the military and intelligence community did not provide a sitting president with information of an action that was of such grave consequence, attacking Russia's nuclear deterrence capability. They didn't just attack tanks. They didn't just attack personnel. They attacked the air wing of their nuclear deterrent arsenal. And that puts Putin with less options, paints him into a corner. They just moved us a step closer on the minute hand to nuclear war, where Putin has to decide if they have another attack on our missiles, which they did. They attacked their missile assembly complexes, where they also do maintenance on their nuclear missile fleet. They attacked that also. That's not as widely discussed within what just happened. Kennedy and Khrushchev, there was back channel communications both men had through unofficial parties.
You're a good man. Your brother is a good man. I assure you there are other good men. Let us hope the will of good men is enough to counter the terrible strength of this thing that was put in motion.
You know, these generals want to go to war. They want to start a war. Kennedy, in the writings, the people around Kennedy, and even his own stuff, when you understand what he was saying, he was afraid that he was going to get manipulated into presiding over World War III, that he, as a Catholic, would bear the guilt, the responsibility for the deaths of tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people, because he would push the button.
Good morning, Mr. Zip, 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 you're surely looking fine. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust, if the candles don't get you, the Fatima's lost. Good morning, Mr. Zip, 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 with your haircut just as short as, haircut just as short as, haircut just as short as mine. Good morning, Mr. Zip, 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 with your haircut just as short as mine. Good morning, Mr. Zip, 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 you're surely looking fine. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust.
Bloodline globalista, a hidden hand behind the hidden hand. And these particular families want to keep the world at war. It benefits them.
You know, last summer I read a book, The Guns of August. I wish every man on that blockade line had read that book. It's World War I. It's 13 million killed. It was all because the militaries of both alliances believed they were so highly attuned to one another's movements and dispositions, they could predict one another's intentions, but all their theories were based on the last war. And the world and technology had changed, and those lessons were no longer valid. But it was all they knew, so the orders went out, couldn't be rescinded. And your man in the field, his family at home, they couldn't even tell you the reasons why their lives are being destroyed. Here we are 50 years later. I think one of their ships resists the inspection. And we shoot out its rudder and board. They shoot down one of our planes in response. So we bomb their anti-aircraft sites in response to that. They attack Berlin. So we invade Cuba. And they fire their missiles. And we fire ours.
This is the thing that kept him awake at night. And then he was very aware that he was being cooked. We have this situation today where it's very Kennedy-esque. Just understand, Trump is being blocked. The blocks are the same groups that stopped us from getting to the truth at 2020. Who's ultimately got them on the payroll? I'm telling you, it's senior executive service. That's the monster behind the scenes that is claiming authority to do these things as though Trump is not the legitimate president. That's the fight that's on. And on the other side, the group that has the nuclear keys being run out of Cheyenne Mountain and 100 other related facilities, NORAD, are saying, no and hell no, we're not giving you the keys because you're not in charge either. That's why they were looking for the biscuit. Wow. Trump himself told you last summer, and a lot of people missed it. I told you when this first happened, the raid at Mar-a-Lago, they were looking for the biscuit. Trump himself, and people know it was for the Blue Book. It was for the stuff related to Crossfire Hurricane and other stuff. No, it wasn't. They were looking for the biscuit. They never got it when Biden was sworn in. How do we know that it was the biscuit? They searched Barron's desk and all of his video games and everything else. Trump himself said, you think I'm going to leave the nuclear codes in the possession of a teenager? Are you crazy? The people that are backing Trump at the most sensitive, highest level at the nuclear side, they're on the Trump side. This is coming like a freight train. We have the people in physical protective custody here in the United States who stole the 2020 election. All of the experts, including Democrats, by the way, they've been getting briefed steadily now, essentially out of Director of National Intelligence Office, Tulsi Gabbard. Here's a question. Did Karen Bass get into office and be holding office legitimately? What will come out in the months ahead? It is coming like a freight train. When they get here, how secure is Karen Bass's position as the legitimate mayor of Los Angeles? Even the Democrats that have been briefed on this, they don't even argue. It's so clear, decisive, no question about it. You cannot argue with what we got. So they've created these sanctuary cities and protected the people in office in those areas. We see some of the most extensive fraud within the vote of all, very consistent. They have the most to lose as we get into the election integrity issues and the theft of multiple elections, putting people into power and holding them there. They're going to have a harder and harder time saying that what they're doing is legitimate as an act of the will of the people. I'll give you one little sneaky little thing that my friend Pat Byrne has made known just in the last few hours. The building where the servers were at, a portion of them in Serbia, that were used to flip the election in 2020 and 2024, that building, the person who is essentially defected and come over to the American side is giving information behind the scenes that will be part of war crimes trials, Gitmo in the future. That person said his business partner on the building where those servers were located was John Brennan. Now think about that. If that isn't an earthquake revelation, you mean to tell me that the director of the CIA during the time period they were getting up to and prepping for the 2020 election had a business interest in the building where those things were placed that were used in flipping the election? Do you think we should just prosecute that as a policing matter over at the Justice Department? Or do you think that is treasonous, since China had its top intelligence people there managing the flip of the vote? Come on. And all the people working with him in that time frame, which would include Comey and others, they're all going down for the count. And it won't be to, upstate New York. It's going to be down at Gitmo. They'll have their own wing.
London calling to the faraway towns. Now war is declared and battle come down. London calling to the underworld. Come out of the cupboard, you boys and girls. London calling, now don't look to us. Phony Beatlemania has bitten the dust. London calling, see we ain't got no swing except for the rain and the truncheon thing. The ice age is coming, the sun's zooming in. Meltdown expected, the wheat is going thin. Engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning. I live by the river to the imitation zone. Forget it, brother, you can go it alone. London calling at the top of the dial, and after all this, won't you give me a smile?
There's so many moving parts in this. At the end of the day, all roads lead to Obama. That's been said for a very long time. It's because the public understanding of these things is at still a surface level. The players that that you can see in the visible side of the games. This is chess at multiple levels, and a few of the boards aren't visible except to the two masters that are playing the game. Obama is a creation of CIA. Players there going all the way back to before he was born. So he's been being puppeteered. But in that puppeteering, he's the one that was at the center of everything that happened aimed at Trump. You can hit the peripheral people around Obama and start trying to, go to court with him, if you will. Justice Department charges, etc. Or you can go right to the top. And if you go right to the top, because of the coordination of this effort against an incoming Trump presidency and during that first term, you're going to Obama as the ringleader, the visible ringleader in this. What that would be is a non-Article 3 court. In other words, Gitmo. That would mean arresting Obama and taking him to Gitmo. Obama, from before he was born, was somebody's tool. Stanley Ann Dunham is not his real mother. He was part of somebody's cover operation from before he was born. So with that in mind, there is no escape location for him and what he's doing. And he's followed, he got all the way to the presidency. What he's going to turn on the people that put him there. It's the whole game. He can't back off. And he's a puppet. He's at the center of this legally because he was in the presidency. What country would he be safe in? Would he even be safe in Antarctica? Does the chess game go on even though if you're playing on 5 boards, just because they got a king here, a king there, doesn't mean you've got all the kings until the last king of one side is down. The game isn't over. And there's always, sneak moves between the boards, the visible ones and the invisible ones. Within this audience that we're talking to right now are actually more astute than we probably give them credit for. But they're still dealing with their friends and neighbors that are in a sort of a haze. It's not even denial, Nino. The propaganda, the mind game is so deep. The U.S. government's been hijacked. There is not a field office in the country that doesn't have an SES senior person, usually the head of the office, who is also an SES member. So are they really working within the FBI system, or are they working for senior executive service under the auspices of continuity of government between elected administrations? Okay, that's the whole point. They were running the country as though we were in some type of a post-war event. Their image is the keystone, which is at the top of an archway that locks the two sides in place. That's this hidden part that even in the rest of the news you see over the next weeks and months, they won't really be mentioned, but it's coming. There's a hidden hand that's been running all these visible players. The visible players are not released from guilt. For the moment, we're going to get the visible side, and all of your listeners are going to get, bragging rights that they were right and right on track and all that. Now we get down to this exact moment. Remember Seth Rich. Remember WikiLeaks. When that was put out, the Democrats had to do something. Pizzagate. And all the horrors portrayed in these communications between Hillary and her campaign staff. The stuff that's in Pizzagate is beyond horrific. I got to sacrifice a chicken to, win the election type of thing. We got to, is it time to play the alien card? Literally to try to fool the world, not just America, that aliens were landing, and therefore we had to operate a certain way globally. Senior Executive Service and Serco on the Brit side were behind many of the false flags, arresting Obama and the core group of people around him for the crimes that they have done against America and the world. You take out a couple of the key players and send them down to Gitmo forever. You send them down there for treason, high crimes against America and the world. Because remember also, we've got multiple wars across the world that would not exist if Trump had been allowed to do his job. Tens of millions of people dead, including the COVID scam. This is dicey stuff because you're playing for the whole world, and you've got nation state level actors in play, and you're only seeing 3 boards out of 5. 2 of them are completely hidden. Those whom the gods would destroy, they must first villainize. If you just go straight in and arrest, say, an Obama or a Hillary or something like that, before you have villainized them adequately, allowed the information to come out to dismantle the biome, the protective film around him, and he's still hoping for some kind of a event. What if one of the nukes that's out there had been refreshed and was now viable and was somewhere loose on American soil? That's what Kurlov over in Russia was chasing. Materials that could be used to freshen up nuclear devices that Iran got a hold of. From Russia's own stuff, go look at what Kurt Weldon's telling you. When he was there in Russia with their intelligence services, with their military, with Putin, and got to go through their version of Cheyenne Mountain, they told him they were missing 200 demolition is the way they describe them specifically, nukes. You're playing for the whole world. At the ultimate level, this is the God versus Satan, Lucifer moment. In the greater mega movement, the Trump movement, there is a Christian theme that underlies all of that. That's more than just make America great again. It is, what was the origins of America? It was pilgrims that came here, and in their mission statement, it was to take the gospel of Christ to the world. They made that compact, that covenant on the boat before they ever set foot onto the land. They were committed. And so within that kind of a mindset, America as a Christian nation built out. The devil's trying to thwart that because the covenant with God is the origins of America. And you can try to dismantle it, take it off track and stop that. But when God saves America and then makes America great again through this dark moment just ahead, just like with Job, after he went through all those trials and tribulation, he had gone through this horror and he was restored. And his situation after these trials and testings was greater even than it was before. America is not going to be the same ever. And their dark moment is coming, but their near-death experience actually isn't a near-death experience. It's a death experience. We're about to see this evil that has captured the soul of America, has captured the American way, has captured the governance of America. We're about to see them taken out all the way to the roots.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire.
In a boat on a river with tangerine trees and marmalade skies.
In 1978, in an operation that was actually being pushed by George Bush Sr., who came into the CIA under a Democratic president, he was a Republican businessman who came to help reorganize the CIA after the Church Committee hearings, where all the family jewels of the CIA, all their mischief, all their craziness was talked about out in public, drugging everyday Americans and military people with LSD to see how they would react, working on mind control, not just on individuals, but as a predicate to mind control of whole sections of society and the American people and how they would react.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds. I'm in the back with your head in the clouds and you're gone. Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York. I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep and find I'm king of the hill, top of the heap.
You're in your late 30s. You got 40 years to live, minimum.
Somebody has to help this country, and if they don't, the country and the world are in big trouble. Because within a short period of time, as sure as we're sitting here, there's not going to be a country and there's not going to be a world.
BuzzFeed dug up an old quote from Donald Trump talking about a large-scale terror attack 19 months before 9/11. I really am convinced we're in danger of the sort of terrorist attacks that will make the bombing of the 1993 Trade Center look like little kids playing with firecrackers.
He basically predicted the attacks from Osama bin Laden.
Even if you had a demolition with the squibs going off and shape charges, explosives in key locations, you know, when you prepare a building to bring it down, they also remove key supports. They drill things out. There's a lot of demolition work that's done before you ever place the charges to bring a building down, okay? How much of that would even have been possible? It will take access to the military systems behind the scenes that are not even acknowledged publicly, and those technologies. That's what we see in the Palisades and Paradise fires. Car wheels melted, glass melted. That you can't get anywhere close to those temperatures, not even in the same world with wood or other accelerants present, the paint. So it had to be something else present in all of these situations, and it's directed energy. If you wanted to invade our intelligence community, you had 16 different agencies, all isolated, insulated, operated separately. The information from them was brought in through the cabinet, was brought in through the joint chiefs, but they operated independently so that an enemy would have to get spies in every one of them and then coordinate the energy to know everything that was going on. When you put all of them under one roof, Homeland Security, it actually made it easier for our intelligence community to be infiltrated and run. Trump said when he ran for office the first time, "Before I'm done, you will know exactly who brought down these buildings."
We are the leading venue for public research into remote viewing as it is done using methodologies that were developed by the United States military or procedures that are derivative of those methodologies. And my assumption and belief going into this research was that the official story that we were all told about the 9/11 attacks was true, and that the remote viewing data would show that the so-called conspiracy theories regarding those events were wrong. Once the experiment was completed and I examined all of the data, no one was more challenged than myself by the possibility that the official story may not be correct.
Feels like a fast-moving object that impacts. It feels like an intentional, destructive event. And this is intentional.
And it's just a streak across the sky, like it's got a whine, pitched like a World War II buzz bomb, cruise missile. This stubby thing kind of burst up, and there's a flash. The engine ignites, and it's like it's not going to achieve flight. It comes up and just hangs there, like whoa, and then I see it ignite, and the thrust is amazing, and then this is coming out of water. I've got to say submarine launched, and this is a structure here that's, I'm going to say that's a submarine. Popeye.
Popeye is the name of a family of air-to-surface missiles developed by the Israeli company Rafael. The standard Popeye air-to-surface missile has a weight of 1.36 tons, a length of 4.82 meters, with firing ranges 78 kilometers. Meanwhile, Popeye Turbo is an extended range version of this air-to-surface cruise missile. It uses a liquid-fuel engine, length increased to 6.25 meters, and range up to over 320 kilometers.
The buildings, though, the Twin Towers, were always intended to be taken out. They were built to be brought down. But there was concert stuff that was being done in New York, and Michael Jackson was performing at the concerts. That was the big deal. Michael Jackson was scheduled to be on one of the upper floors in one of the buildings on 9/11, receiving a presentation exactly when the buildings were hit. He was at the time, he was at the pinnacle of his career. Everybody was good to go. And remember, it's sleight of hand, it's a card trick. All of these false flags are card tricks, okay?
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. You can't disguise. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies.
He was exhausted, and his mom called because he understood that he was being framed into something. He was upset about it. He didn't understand within his career, and he was kind of beside himself. And she was trying to talk him down. And he went to sleep, and he just couldn't get up. Of course, you weren't going to stop this event that was pre-planned. It had to go forward.
I have learned to trust remote viewing data collected by viewers such as Daz Smith and Dick Allgaier, especially when the project involves a past event where there are corroborating physical data. But again, watch, listen, and make up your own mind.
This is stale air. This is recycled air. A lot of electronic smells. The inside of an airplane, and the guys are on the inside, and there's no windows in the plane. There's consoles, and they're at workstations that are in a row down the fuselage of the plane. And I want to say, like, the word AWACS. This definitely has a military feel to it. These guys are in uniforms which seem like flight suits to me, and I'm drawn to, I saw a particular person that looks central to this to me, and when I saw him, he was like standing at a desk. He's standing there rigidly, and he stands up all day. It's like I don't know if he thinks it keeps him more alert, burns more calories. He's a very fit guy. He just doesn't think he should sit down. He's like advises presidents. He tells presidents what to do. Elitist New World Order PNAC, he's a chairman of the board kind of guy, been in a lot of corporations, been in the military, is involved in the government, is at the very highest levels internationally. Very powerful guy. I hear his voice with an accent that's Midwest, Illinois, Chicago. You wouldn't argue with him. He's just gonna shut you down. Documents are made, forgeries, maps, bearer bonds. You know, it's like maybe they're making fake bearer bonds or something.
Everything you've heard about how Michael was getting himself drugged and the doctor and all the other stuff, and that this was, induced, and he killed himself essentially with the doctor doing it. Totally false. And people around him that are fighting internally to get to the truth, it's a big deal. And so the question is, was he murdered because they wanted the wealth that he had there in that music book, and he just wouldn't give it up? People that were present say, no, I mean, this particular individual was in the room. It's a name everybody here would know, and watched him getting the shit beat out of him, and, encouraging him, look, just agree with him. Come on, Michael, it's the only way.
When I think back on all the crap I learned in high school, it's a wonder I can think at all. And my lack of education hasn't hurt me none. I can read the writing on the wall. Kodachrome, give us those nice bright colors, give us the greens of summers, makes you think all the world's a sunny day. Oh yeah, I got a Nikon camera, I love to take a photograph, so mama don't take my Kodachrome away. If you took all the girls I knew when I was single, brought them all together for one night, I know they'd never match my sweet imagination. And everything looks worse in black and white. Kodachrome,